Tom Slater's here for Spice Online. Tom, we're going to be looking at what's going on in the markets in a moment because they're in turmoil thanks to Rachel Reeves' budget, thanks to the debt that we've now saddled ourselves with, which is the highest I think it's ever been for very, very many a year. But also what's going on, we want to keep abreast of as well over in California. Some terrible scenes there where the fires are still raging. There's a helicopter reporter who's above the Hollywood Hills wildfire. But if you look at this particular piece of footage, this is a car driving through a section of I think it's North Los Angeles, and it looks to me like it's been hit by a nuclear blast, doesn't it? I mean, there's literally nothing there. Everything's burned to a crisp. People's houses completely destroyed. An awful lot of celebrities have been affected, which doesn't make it any more important than anything else, but it just means that, you know, it shows you that basically these fires can affect anyone. You know, you get no special pass just because you happen to have loads of money and a great big house in the hills.
No, absolutely. And it's also a reminder, I think, of just what a catastrophic failure of governance there is in California and Los Angeles in particular. This is an incredibly rich city at the heart of one of the richest states in the Union, and yet it still has been so terribly governed that you've got firefighters not having water in the hydrants,
no water in the hydrants,
having to use swimming pools to recover their stocks, and people just kind of, again, turning around and saying thoughts and prayers rather than actually explaining how they're going to help people start to put their lives back together. So, as you say, it does make it more important that this is some quite salubrious parts of Los Angeles, but it's a reminder of just how terribly run that part of the world is.
It really is. Let's have a listen to the helicopter reporter who's talking about what he's seeing.
Mark, very concerning sight here in the Hollywood Hills. We're just west of Nichols Canyon, just north of Hollywood Boulevard, where a major fire has just sparked in the last 5 minutes. We were over the Pacific Palisades. We saw the glow coming from over the hill, and just in the last couple of minutes that it took us to get over here to Hollywood, this thing has exploded in size.
And I mean, that is a massive fire. I mean, I know that area quite well. Many people won't have been there, but I mean, it's such a widespread part of the world, you know, because everything is desert really effectively around where the city is, and that fire you can see there just raging has only just started 5 minutes before they filmed that. So I mean, there's no end in sight really. It's absolutely horrific.
No, absolutely horrific. And obviously there does
5 people now dead as well.
It's just so tragic. And also the fact that this is something which surely should have been seen coming. I understand that there was, you know, the sort of wind and the way in which that spread the fire and so on is particularly unusual, but at the same time, this happens almost every year in California. There are wildfires. There's always conversations about have they done enough to kind of clear the brush, clear the kindling, make sure the environment is managed in such a way that you don't allow for a kind of tinderbox to be set off. And yet this has happened on such a catastrophic scale. You can't say that people couldn't have seen something like this coming at some point.
No, I know. It's absolutely awful, dreadful. Speaking of not seeing things coming, the Treasury step in to halt market mayhem. Front page of the Daily Telegraph. They've been forced to intervene to stabilise financial markets amid growing concern over the effects of Rachel Reeves' budget and a surge in borrowing costs, because the Treasury have had to sell off, I think this was yesterday, they had to sell off a whole load of new debt, auctioning £4.25 billion worth of new debt. Treasury's debt interest cost £10 billion more after the bond market sell-off, and the FTSE 250 slumped to an 8-month low. So it's catastrophic what's going on here, much worse than what happened under Liz Truss. And yet, the BBC remains relatively quiet about it. I was watching the BBC News just before we came in. They're reporting that Chinese inflation is down to 0.1%. I'm like, how about you do some reporting on the state of our finances and the state of the Treasury and the situation regarding what Labour has done to our economy? And they've trashed it.
And it's comparisons like this which are really going to do it for them. The fact that the cost of government borrowing is now higher than it was during the Truss crisis. The fact that you've had Rachel Reeves, who was saying we're not going to raise your taxes any further, that we can pledge that to you, may now be forced to either raise taxes again or to start cutting spending, which is something which is also going to be politically painful for her, both within and outside of her particular political party. I am flabbergasted that they didn't again see this coming, because of the fact that the economic indicators were not good going into this particular period. It's been abundantly clear that the only people who think that budget was a success are Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, and even then you do wonder if they actually believe it. I think even she's now beginning to realise that she's made a massive mistake. But let's remind ourselves of why it was such a great idea to appoint Rachel Reeves in the first place. Here's Keir Starmer.
It will also be the first budget delivered by a woman ever. That That is a moment of pride. When Rachel Reeves stands up, she will be making history. And I can tell you, young women and girls across the country will be watching, they will look up, and they will notice.
So the fact that she's a woman is the most remarkable thing about Rachel Reeves. Apparently the fact that she has zero economic knowledge and completely lacks any kind of a sense about how to run an economy is less important.
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. Like, the idea that you should appoint someone to be Chancellor or any particular position on the basis of whether they're male, female, black, I mean, it's just absolutely
It's
absurd.
mad, but it's typical of the Labour, you know, problem, isn't it? All they see everything as a label.
Yeah.
You know, everything is a racist, or it's a woman, or it's trans, or it's discriminatory. You know, they can't just look at people and go, "There's a human being."
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's the best person for the job.
And you know that, you know, this I hope it doesn't, but the economic outlook could get even worse. We could be plunged into a really serious crisis. Rachel Reeves could be forced to step down. You know, they'd still say, well, she was the first female chancellor. People don't care about any of that stuff. We've already had female prime ministers, none of them from the Labour Party, incidentally. This is about, does this person have the right plan? Do they know how to manage the economy?
Right.
The reason Rachel Reeves has been proven terrible as that is not because she's a woman, it's because she's Rachel Reeves. But at the same time, the idea that you should appoint her on the basis of her immutable characteristics is absurd on the face of it.
Yeah.
But this is all this Labour Party have, is optics and virtue signalling. Yeah. Meanwhile, they ruin everything they touch.
And look
it's
at what we've
ridiculous.
done. I mean, this is one of the things that he keeps saying about the NHS. You know, we pledged to get rid of the waiting times, and we bring those waiting times down. We are honouring that pledge. Well, a pledge doesn't mean anything unless you do it. You know, promising to do something isn't an achievement, you know, and saying that you're now well on the road to promising to do it is not achievement. I mean, the front page of the Eye this morning has got a panel of economists sends a warning to the Chancellor over the toxic combination of factors hitting the UK. Rachel Reeves faces a generational fiscal challenge, according to Ben Zaranko from the Institute for Fiscal Studies. She needed to get lucky on growth or interest rates or something, and it looks like she hasn't. So there's no growth. Interest rates are going to be staying high. People's mortgages are going to be going up. There's a piece in The Sun talking about prices going up, 4.5%. Food prices are going to go up. The return of punishing inflation will put another squeeze on Brits, with experts saying there's little hope of prices going anywhere but in the wrong direction. Even Greggs are going up, apparently. Greggs has already outraged customers by hiking its sausage rolls from £1.25 to £1.30. Coffee has risen 10p to £1.70. 2 years ago, its popular porky pastries were just £1. So that's basically a 25% increase. The
bad news keeps on coming.
You know?
And this is something where, because of the whole Liz Truss budget blow-up, that effectively deactivated an attack line against Labour for a period of time. The idea that you cannot trust in the economy. You start to see in the opinion polls, people are actually starting to be warmer to the Labour Party on that question. The speed with which they've wiped out that advantage that they managed to take has been absolutely incredible. But as we've been talking about, how do we not see this coming? They say they had a laser-like focus on growth. Did anyone really believe this?
Well,
there was no policy.
Nobody now believes a word they say about anything, whether it be grooming gangs, whether it be stopping the boats, whether it be the economy. I mean, Julian Jessup, the economist at the IEA, has put out a tweet last night saying, "Is it possible that Rachel Reeves' first budget will also be her last?" I think it probably is. I don't think she's going to make it. And she came in, let's not forget, as the sort of the great new hope of Labour. She was going to be the first Labour leader. She was obviously going to be the person that would step in if Starmer, for some reason, decided to step down. That's all been forgotten about now. She has no chance of furthering her career in the Labour Party because she's completely ruined the country.
And it'd be one of those things where, obviously, the kind of trail of horrors that she's left in her very short tenure so far. But there'll be an unfortunate way in which the Labour Party will try and kind of just make it a scapegoat as well, because these are policies that Keir Starmer was signed up to. This is a budget that he's continuing to say was actually a really important...
For working people.
for working people that we're delivering and so on.
As if he thinks that'll convince everyone that it's true.
So even if they do get rid of her, and I agree with you, the prospects of that have risen very sharply over the course of the past 24 hours. It's not going to solve the problem. They've got no idea what they're doing.
They really don't, and that's quite worrying, it has to be said. Tom Slater's here, I'm Mike Graham.